order, picking the English into or on this map, but we'll take a look because we are about to jump in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 2 in this series. Viper versus VortiX, spawning in on the south side of the map. After his victory in the first game, he's decided to go with the Chinese in game number 2. He spawns in, he's looking pretty hot. It is TheViper.
And on the northern side, you're going to have VortiX down 1 game, match point in the winner's bracket. Even if he loses here, he wouldn't be eliminated from this stage, but obviously he wants to remain on that winner stage. We do have him utilizing the English, not a civilization that you commonly see on this map, and a civilization that does have some water-related technologies. I think it's actually called shipwrights that makes your ships come at a discount, but it's so rarely used because oftentimes water combat is just about French hawks and Rus Lodya attack ships. So you rarely see the English played on water maps, but they do have some bonuses for water maps here.
Yeah, well, they've also got another great bonus. So it's not a technology, not an upgrade, but rather a civilization bonus. That is that they get an extra range with their attack ships, their arrow ships, all their warships get 1 extra range. And you might not think that that is a big deal, but once it starts getting into, fighting out, and it's junk versus galley, and the galley, manages to basically just get, the last shot off for the very last second, then that's where it really makes all the difference when it comes down to those little trades. So we'll have to see how this game starts off because we've got fishing boats coming out from either player here, and both appear to have pretty decent spawns with regard to their fish.
Exactly. Speaking of fish, this is, as we discussed multiple times, being played on a brand new patch, and you can see that the amount of deep fish was massively increased on this map. So one of the problems that we had back in the days in competitive settings with Boulder Bay is that some players had very unfavorable deep fish spawn, but if you look at the minimap now, you have a ton of deep fish. So it's almost guaranteed that each player is going to have at least 1 favorable dock spot. Now obviously you have to find it, but it is going to be a much more fair map generation now, and that's definitely something that's helping it become much more legitimate in a competitive environment.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you as well. I think the big part is just the most important thing to have this map as a genuine map is so that, or would be so that civilizations are fair in the first, or rather in the second age. It's about, because when it comes to water in Age of Empires 4, it's such a critical resource. If you lose water, not only do you lose the potential for fish, not only do you lose the potential for coastal trading, but the big thing is that in every single map in Age of Empires 4, the water is not just of a resourceful importance, it's a strategic importance as well. You're able to use your large range Baochuans, you're able to use explosive dhows on the shoreline. So it's one of those things where it's like, you really need to make sure you take control in the early game, but we are seeing players begin to transition into these build orders that are a lot better in Age 2. So it's great to see that this map is coming along.
Exactly, and as you pointed out, water is not just a source of resources, it has a massive strategic importance, including transport ships. So I wonder if either of the players will try to play with transport ships out there, because especially using the English here, you're likely still aging up with the council hall, so you will always have the option to mix in a couple of longbowmen. If you can sneak around with a transport ship and just land 5 longbowmen in the enemy base, if Viper comes unprepared, that could have a massive devastation done in his base.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Transport ships definitely need to be acknowledged, because if you do lose water, then you need to start walling up, because it is highly likely your enemy is going to look to get those drops in. We've seen throughout the event already, I've seen Knight drops, I've seen Palace Guard drops. They have been, they've been doing absolutely everything, but now we have that age up coming through from Viper. Very early age up, I will say. This is a 4-minute and 15-second age up. Looks to be about 4:15 coming through right here from Viper. A very nice timing from him.
Yeah, Chinese fast feudal ages have been optimized very recently, so with the new patch, there are now some builds that are super fast with the Chinese feudal age, and I wonder if that's the primary reason why Viper picked Chinese here, because if he can optimize a very nice feudal age timing and get that first combat ship out faster than the opponent, suddenly he could get that edge in the water fight, and look at that, that's going to be a defensive tower I see on the shoreline. Viper's going to see that as well. That's obviously going to boost the attack rate of the combat ships here for VortiX. And given the fact that he's rather slow into feudal age as well, and he's dropping the defensive tower, I get the impression that he wants to play very defensive gameplay over here.
Yeah, I think it might be a consequence of the fact that he's only just clicked up to feudal, whereas Viper's already up. And so now we see that Viper going to be coming out here. It looks like the outpost is just going to get up. You can see the fishing boat's actually coming in to do a bit of a block, but he manages to get all 5 units inside. And great work there from VortiX to be able to do that. But now you can see he's starting to struggle a bit. Viper with the junk out, doing his thing. But VortiX very safely underneath this outpost is gathering up the shorefish. A little bit lower on the amount of resources it ticks, but yeah, a little bit lower on the amount of resources it ticks, but at least he's safe.
Yeah, now VortiX did lose that scout out there, and as you pointed out, things aren't looking good for him because he is gathering, but it is shorefish that he's gathering. Quite a lot of his fishing ships will be idle with the second junk coming out. And look at the angles that Viper is choosing. Beautiful positioning on those combat ships. He's attacking outside the range of the tower as the fishing ships are coming close to the dock, and he's also denying quite a lot of shorefish droplets on the right side with that second war junk. And now VortiX losing his scout as well means that he's playing blind. Things aren't looking great, and look at that little touch from Viper. He's bringing in a fishing ship to repair that damaged combat vessel.
Just so impressive. But now we see VortiX reaching the feudal age at 6 minutes. Viper has been up for almost 2 minutes at this point in the game. It's incredible to see the difference in age up times between these two players. But yeah, Viper doing a great job just taking control of his enemy's base, his enemy's water base. But now we do see a galley in queue coming out for VortiX. He'll look to try and retake control of the water. He's obviously lost it. But behind this, look at the resources coming out for Viper. He's stacking up 490 gold. He could be thinking about a potential castle here.
Maybe. His food count isn't looking spectacular though, so that is definitely something that he needs to address. But for now, he's denying the food income of VortiX as well. VortiX, as you said, there is going to be galley popping out. And while the English do have a longer range on their combat ships, that's not going to be something that applies in this close combat situation, but could be very helpful if you're trying to pick off that escaping ship. Looks like Viper is going to get away using that mist in the middle of the Boulder Bay. You gotta love this defense here for VortiX though. Viper is going to be able to fix his combat ship here, but ultimately, VortiX was able to push this back quite easily.
Yeah, when it comes... Oh, bit of insufficient wood there from Viper. Not what you'd come to expect from a guy who's got his junks out this early. But Viper going to be able to push back now once again. But yeah, the galley matches up quite well against the junk. It's got... more arrows, more damage, more armor, more health. It is basically the perfect attack ship, or at least the perfect arrow ship. But yeah, there we see Viper still looking pretty good, pretty healthy at this point.
Yeah, there's a reason why those Chinese ships are called junks, I mean. You can see for a brief moment that Council Hall is up for VortiX, and he's able to keep his fishing eco alive, and this is the domain where you can potentially start thinking about just going for some level of land aggression. Not a single longbowman coming out. Instead, it looks like VortiX is playing a fast castle, because look at those resources. That would also explain why he's playing very defensive, and as you pointed out, the war junks are very dangerous, but what if you don't let your opponent get there, because you will get to Castle Age faster and get your Hawks out?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So once the Hulks come out, that's when VortiX is going to be looking to spin to win. Viper, on the other hand, behind this, I mean, we mentioned earlier the fact that he had a bit of a gold bank build up. He's decided to spend that elsewhere. He's not thinking about castling at this point in time. But yeah, VortiX, a bit of the underdog here. But I like this little adaptation. The 3 longbows just coming in to say good day, seeing if they can find any Sheilas to take down to the Loo. It looks like there is a couple of Vills down here that are going to potentially be isolated here.
And this is such a nice little touch here for VortiX, because he knows very well that Viper is focused on water. The probability of him having any land production building is minimal, and now he's moving in. Yeah, sure thing, you have a village here to protect your villagers with, but that's going to be a ton of idle time. Idle time in which you're not gathering gold, and I am getting close to Castle Age. That's what VortiX says. Viper is actually going to commit against those fishing ships, but with VortiX having that tower out there, looks like he might even lose one of those junks. Yep. Loses one junk here, and a full disaster for Viper right now, because VortiX is denying his gold income, and VortiX is ready to go into castle.
Yeah, a little bit of a mistake right there from VortiX. Losing 3 longbowmen, he could have kept them on hold position, and he would have been A-okay, but King's Palace going to be coming down for him. At this point in time, I feel like VortiX is probably ahead, just simply because Viper hasn't made it up to the 3rd age yet. And I'm kind of wondering, what is Viper even investing his resources on? Obviously, we do see the blacksmith going down. Has he got +1 coming out from him? What have we got coming out from Viper? Because he's really looking to try and take control in this second age.
Nothing at all. Like, at least according to the overlay, not a single upgrade has come in for Viper. I think he probably wanted to grab the first upgrade as he was attacked, but he really was just investing into combat ships. That is 8 junks that we are talking about, and he lost one as well. So really, he was just focusing on having that critical mass of arrow ships, and this is why that defensive tower is so helpful, because that's sort of deterring Viper from launching that attack against that dock. And now VortiX is gonna be up to Castle Age. I think this is a now or never for Viper. He needs to commit right now before the first Hawk comes out.
Yeah, and we can see him now pushing out across the map with his junk. He is looking to try and take control of this center pond. There's plenty of junks out here, but the question is whether the galleys are going to be able to hold on to it. And you can see they're going to be heading back towards the shoreline, trying their best. But my main concern is that if a single Hulk or two get out, that it is just going to be all over Red Rover. And we can see that there is one in queue at the moment for VortiX. He's got a Knight in queue as well. So looking to try and take an aggressive stance here, but all of the fishing boats managing to make it inside. You can see just how little damage these galleys are taking. What's the armor on these things? These guys are so tanky.
They are super tanky, and VortiX is buying himself a ton of time here. The first Hawk is almost ready to pop out. You see it's at like 90% completion, and these 2 galleys are still alive. Look at that micro as by VortiX. By the time he loses them, the Hawk is gonna be out. It looks like Viper will have to take the Constellation prize here by trying to take down that galley, but look at that. It's like, it's surviving for so long. And, I mean, Viper is yet to click up to Castle Age, or is he? He's building something, but that could be Song Dynasty.
No, he is up. A new age has begun. Viper is now in age 3. He's looking to get his war junks out, so definitely looking for a bit of a promotion there. Yeah, going from junk to war junk. A slightly better unit. Now, one of the things to note as well is that an upgrade that was very common that you would take with the Chinese has actually been nerfed in the most recent patch, and that's Navigator Lookout. So this upgrade used to give you 2 line of sight as well as 1 range. Now all it does for you just gives you line of sight. So we're going to expect to see less difference in the strength of those war junks.
Indeed, you could see for a brief moment the Knight coming over though, and this is still a bit of a concern for Viper, because just 1 Knight can cause so much chaos, and you see first Hawk already coming out. For VortiX, the name of the game is denying those resources, especially gold, and making sure that Viper simply can't make more combat ships. Looks like the junks will jump on the Hawks over here. Second Hawk is in the mist over there. So far, 1 junk is sunk. Hawks are very slow though, so it's going to take quite a lot of time to retreat. But this is still a good fight over here for VortiX, especially if he can pull the fishing ships to repair those. Looks like all the junks will be sacrificed here for Viper.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough position right now for Viper. He is losing his junks left, right, center. He's got that war junk on the backside. You can see him dancing around, doing a little bit of a circle, but the fishing boat pull from VortiX is going to help keep his boats alive for a lot longer. And look at that one over on the left-hand side, the Hulk just getting repaired like a madman all of a sudden. The fishing boat's going to escort it back to safety, take its fish back to the docks, and only the war junks now remain for the Viper. And this is part of the thing I was a bit curious about with Viper, investing so heavily in his junk in the second age. Typically, you wouldn't see Chinese players do that just because of how weak that junk is. Ideally, you want to get to those war junks ASAP.
Indeed. Behind this one, there is also a small villager lead that's being built up by VortiX. He's got 2 town centers to work with. It's not going to have a massive impact right now, but it's a nice way to carve a bit of a lead. And you see, with Viper being distracted trying to clean up those knights inside his eco, losing all those junks over there, this is something that VortiX can use to push deeper into Viper's territory. For now, the war junks are still alive though, so Viper won't be pushed away from the water anytime soon. VortiX floating 1500 gold over here actually, so he needs a market to balance that out ASAP, because he could easily have 2 or 3 more Hawks on the water already using that gold.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Now, I think that this is this part of the game is I'm just happy to see that both players have made it to this part and neither has lost water. This is really important because at this point now, even if you were to lose water, it's okay. Because behind this, VortiX has got 2 town centers. Viper has got the ability to go straight into the Song Dynasty, straight into a 2nd or a 3rd town center if he's so pleased to. And so by losing the water, it is not a huge impact upon them and their chances at winning the game. In the event that this was at 4 minutes or 5 minutes into the game, it's completely different. But at 14 minutes, you've got a lot more resources to work with.
And look at the Vorjung numbers now. 6 Vorjungs we're talking about, and VortiX kind of stopped making ships here. He's still stuck at 3 Hawks and just 1 galley. This is the window that Viper wants to be in, and you gotta wonder what exactly VortiX's plan is. Maybe he's shifting to a land aggression here. Viper does have a scout inside his base, so Viper actually knows what VortiX is up to, but you get the feel that this is extremely dangerous here for VortiX. If he started adding some demolition ships, things could turn around very easily, because obviously demos are meant to hard counter these ballista ships, but you don't see any of that right now for VortiX, and his navy looks quite underwhelming.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The fact that we haven't really seen too many demos coming out. And keep in mind, we've got this beautiful spawn in the middle where you've got the mist that keeps everything hidden, everything unknown. So if a player was going to be looking to go into it, it would definitely make a lot of sense for them to do it sooner rather than later. But yeah, always keep that in mind. We now see an upgrade coming through. I think this is the sprinkled emplacement or the sprinkled upgrade that you can get on your docks. I'm not 100% sure. It is coming through for VortiX right now. It looks like a knight is going to be going down on the shoreline. No harassing fishing boats for you, my friend.
But one thing that VortiX gains with that knight is vision on the fleet of Viper. So suddenly he knows that, oh boy, Viper is going for 8 war junks now. I need to start building up my navy as well. Extra ballistas coming in as well. And it looks like we're also seeing some palace guards out there on the battlefield. Economies, slightly better now for VortiX, but Viper is about to unleash hell with those ships. You really need a couple of demolition ships for VortiX, and as you said, in that mist you could hide 1 or 2 of them and just ambush that navy.
And take a look at Viper right now on his production queue. We do see that there are 3 demo ships coming out. So he has heard the calls from the crowd. He knows that demo ships need to be coming on down to the floor, and indeed they are. He's only got 2 docks out at the moment, so small dock numbers for a guy with so much junk, but he's now going to be looking to add in more. But one thing to note is that behind this, VortiX still sitting on 2 town centers. I'm pretty sure Viper's still just on the 1.
Yeah, he should be, and I think he's still not in Song Dynasty. But once he gets water, and at this pace it's likely that he's going to get water, you get the feel that it is going to be all about that fishing eco as the naval battle suddenly unfolds. Look at that demo creeping up in between those war junks. This is the time to try and get that one to explode.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is all about, trying to get it through. You can kind of part the way between it, but you can see that he's having a bit of trouble making his way up towards the front. He's got fishing boats out there as well. Demo ship makes his way through. Going to get sniped out there by VortiX, at the same time falling back towards his position on the docks. We can see that he's got 3 more hulks in queue, but Viper doing a great job of just taking control of this situation, but still we see VortiX pushing out and actually taking out a fair amount of Viper's units, and now the push begins to come to shove as VortiX says, hey, wait a minute, you ain't doing that, and look at Viper sneakily like a snake sitting there. Here it comes. Smell it. Dealt it. Boom, baby. It wasn't as big as I thought it was. I thought it was going to sink all of them. I thought it was going to sink all of them.
Yeah, it's not the old demo.
It barely did any damage. Yeah, the old demo, I mean, you know, we got to get the buff demos back. Let's get a petition going for buff demos.
Look at the micro that VortiX is doing. The way that he's shifting sites so rapidly, he's got the extra ballistas upgrade on his ships as well. So part of the reason why Viper lost that battle so heavily is because Viper was using his war junk sort of to shield his demos, but the demos never really made it to the Hawks. And VortiX has just raw firepower over here as he's just massacring those docks. It looked so good for Viper on the water 2 minutes ago. Now he's just disappearing from there. Now it is an Imperial Age coming in potentially, is it? No, that's just Song Dynasty. Oh boy, Viper is in serious trouble here because now he lost water, so now it's all VortiX domain to add some more fishing eco. There's already a 17 villagers lead or 17 workers lead for him. He can start thinking about adding fishing ships or potentially even better, some naval trade.
Yeah, Viper's kind of fallen into this trap that I've seen a lot of players start to do on this map. And that's they're investing a lot on them with regard to their military on water, but they're neglecting their economy behind this. And I think that on a map like this, the most important thing you can do is add that second town center as soon as possible, and not as long as you don't die on the water. And I think there was ample opportunity for him to do that. Now, as a result, he's going to be behind significantly on the village account. We can see he's down by 24, 23 villages at this point in time. There's knights in his base. He's got no land military at all. He's got 4 military production. I take that back. There's a single spear, 2 spears coming out now to fend this raid.
Yeah, he's going to repel those knights, but VortiX doesn't have to worry about that. VortiX is more than happy to just control the water. You could see for a brief moment that VortiX has a monastery just like Viper, so both of them plan to go for the relics. And as you pointed out, adding that second town center is crucial, but the real question is, when can the Chinese do that? Because obviously, they have to invest into that naval combat, and that's where the English comes into play. The civilization that doesn't have to invest extra resources into that second town center, really, because their Castle Age is basically a second town center. Looks like we now have the second one up for Viper as well. He's got Song Dynasty too, so he's... Actually, is that a third town center I'm seeing? Yeah, that's a third town center even.
Okay, all right. Maybe it's not all over Red Rover, but one of the things to note is that we have got ourselves 3 town center Song Dynasty and granaries, boys. We have got granaries. The granary hype train has begun. You are seeing it here first. These granaries are no longer locked behind the Yuan dynasty. They are now available in the Song dynasty, and it means that Viper is going to be able to get that nice little bit of extra gather speed for his villagers on those farms.
It's a massive boost to the Song Dynasty that was already very powerful. It's not a big investment at this stage of the game to get to Song Dynasty, and now you have the villager training accelerated on your town centers, plus the granaries. The Song Dynasty was already very powerful, economy-wise, now it's even better. Gotta love that VortiX is spreading out his ships though, and I think the key problem here for Viper is that no matter how good your land economy is, VortiX is sitting on infinite fish in the middle, well, technically infinite gold even if he starts naval trade, and you don't really have the tools to get the water back, at least not right now. Relic-wise, we do have one for Viper, and VortiX, I feel like if he starts pumping out land units, things could get really problematic for Viper.
Yeah, I think the exact same thing. This is definitely a window right here for VortiX because Viper is sitting on those 3 town centers. He's pumping out, keep this in mind, he's pumping 150 food every 13 seconds into those town centers. But slowly and steadily, he is making those villages. And you can see he's closing the gap now. There's a villager difference of about 15 at this point in time. And it's going to continue to close because keep in mind that every single town center there is effectively 1.5 town centers. So he's got 3 town centers. It's actually 4.5 town centers, but now we see that relic being pulled back in by the Monk. He's got to be careful here not to run those units in underneath the Monk. It will very quickly turn the tide of battle. But now we see the nest of bees also coming out as well as a forward keep.
Yeah, Viper definitely wants to secure some land control, and he kind of needs that. As, oh, look at that. That is an aggressive Vanguard Palace that we're seeing out there. You gotta wonder if... did he cancel that? Oh,
I think he has
wants the
canceled it.
Berkshire.
Yep, now...
Oh, that's so risky, man.
Oh.
Right next to that castle. Yeah, he thinks twice about that one. And oh boy, that could have been a disaster. Still could be a disaster, to be honest.
Yeah, it really could. But the Wingard Palace, when it comes up, the Berkshire Palace, when it comes up, it's going to do a huge amount of damage. And keep in mind, it does have that extra range as well. So going to be able to take down that keep, which is quite close to it. So Viper's going to have to be investing a lot of his wood into that keep. But we'll have a look and see from his perspective exactly what he can spot, whether he sees this Wingard, this Berkshire Palace going up. But is that Viper stealing away relics, or at least trying to?
Yeah, he's trying. Oh, nest of bees are coming out. This is so risky. Longbow's eating a huge volley from those palace guards also coming in. That Berkshire is like 80% complete, and if the nest of bees arrives, this could be a complete fallout.
Oh, the damage is massive right there on the villagers. Look at him trying to split them up at the same time. It looks like the Berkshire is probably going to get up here. You can see he's done a great job of splitting the villagers around just one by one. He's going to take out about 4 of them. We're slowly getting there. You can see the scaffolding coming around the Berkshire, and as soon as it gets up, Viper going to be having to evacuate the dance floor. Oh my god, where are all the villagers?
It's going up. Oh, man.
Finally, it goes up with 2 villagers remaining in it. Jeez, that was close.
Yeah, I mean, VortiX probably had like 5 heart attacks in that battle. That could have been a way to lose the game, losing your Imperial Age progress at like 90%. And that is why it's so dangerous to go for that proxy position. It didn't look that dangerous, but if you look at all those wood lines out there, VortiX simply didn't know what's coming at his way, and by the time he spotted that nest of bees, it was a little too late. As you pointed out, it was a key move from him to split up the villagers, so he minimizes the damage output of the nest of bees. Palace guards were still out there, but VortiX gets that up. With that, I think VortiX is in a good position now, but he almost lost the game potentially there.
Yeah, you're 100% right. That could have been very, very terrible if that landmark had been denied in that position. But now we see the Siege Workshops coming out from either player. I would expect that we're going to start seeing a lot of Trebuchets coming out. It looks like Viper's actually going for Bombards, so a bit of a dangerous choice, honestly. I'm not sure if he realizes Bombards have got 10 range, the exact same as the Berkshire Palace. They can be upgraded from 10 range to 12 range through Pyrotechnics, but it's quite an expensive upgrade, so he can look to try and bring that forward. Actually, how much range is on that Berkshire Palace? Was it 12?
It's 12, yeah, it's 12. And the Berkshire has 12.
Okay.
I think it outranges the Red Palace even.
Yeah, that is a lot of range, but you can see now it's going to be firing down on that Bombard. So Viper needs to pull villagers to the Bombard, but you can see just how much damage it's taking. And this is the consequence of building the Bombard. Now moving up a couple of villages, looking to repair it up. Second Bombard going to be coming out from Viper now and trying to take down this Berkshire Palace. He's done a pretty decent job of actually keeping it alive. We see the cannon has come out as well, which is going to be up to 15 range, but it's going to be able to take out those villagers. We'll see if he retargets it. He's managing just to focus down the 2 Bombards now, and you can see he's working it slowly down. Health points on that coming down, but now Viper going to be forced back. We can see both of the Bombards going to be going down unless the villagers repair it, and they manage to make it up, and about 50% health on that landmark. Jeez Louise. We got ourselves a
Yeah.
battle, don't we?
Yeah, that's a massive battle out there. Springles now coming out for VortiX. Those are also buffed by the network of castles firepower bonus. And we're entering the stage where suddenly that Chinese late game is starting to kick in, and that's where things could get a little problematic for VortiX, because once those clock tower bombards start rolling, things could get ugly. And you see that VortiX doesn't have a tremendous amount of land units on the battlefield either. Obviously, sustainability is a problem for Viper, so he has to expand on land. He has to win this game in the next 15 minutes, otherwise he plain and simple runs out of resources. So right now it's all resource control for VortiX, and I think Viper wanted to get back on water. Those villagers got picked off, so now he's gonna have to focus all his efforts against that Berkshire Palace.
Yeah, we can see he's having a bit of a struggle against it. The Berkshire Palace just firing off down on those bombards, but this is the consequence of not going for trebuchets. Obviously, if you do go for trebuchets in this situation, you are safer from that Berkshire Palace, and you're able to constantly drain wood from your enemy, but the bombards aren't, or the trebuchets aren't really of any use after that. The bombards, however, I mean, they're going to be one-shotting units for the rest of the game, so they're still very useful.
And one-shotting units, they pick off the Carracks, or the Hawks, excuse me, on the riverside. And that's going to be massive, because if Viper wants to have a shot at this game, he needs to establish some sort of water control over here. At least make sure that his opponent doesn't have an untouched fishing eco and naval trade out there. First batch of Lancers now coming in, though, here for VortiX. And Viper has no response to this one. Look at that fiesta out there. Viper will lose massive amounts of villagers here to that counterattack.
Yeah, and these are elite knights. Keep that in mind. So this is the consequence of having that water exposure. So I'm assuming that these have come in off a transport. We didn't exactly see, but Townsend are going to be firing down on these knights. And this is as a result of not walling, you are now in this debacle. So if you're just throwing down, 200, 300 wood walls, it would have solved this problem completely. But unfortunately for Viper, he's going to have to be evacuating I was going to say the woodlines. The woodlines have already been evacuated, Lidakor. He's evacuating the farmlands right now.
Yeah, that is a problem, a significant problem for him. Look at Viper, he's at 75 idle villagers. That is unbelievable. 118 villagers with 70 of them being idle. And VortiX knows what he has to do. He just has to delay, because he knows that at some point Viper runs out of resources or space. The Springles open fire, take down one bombard, and Viper also has to pay attention to so many places. It's very difficult to keep those bombards all alive when you have to deal with all these annoying raids as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He's microing on multiple fronts, and with the bombards, it's just such a micro-intensive situation, because your villagers will stop repairing once the unit reaches full health. And as a result, they stop repairing, and then it's free to be killed. But you can see the economy coming out from VortiX. Look at the fishing boats he's got out there, just doing so much work. He's got his upgrades. He's feeling good, looking good, and now just hitting the economy of Viper on 119 villages compared to VortiX on 127. But VortiX is maxed out. He is at max army. He's got 69 military.
Nice.
Very nice.
Very nice. I mean, VortiX with the English there, that is a spectacular fishing eco. Enough for a lot of fish and chips with the English rather.
Yes, enough with the fishing ships. But have a look at the massive Springles that are coming out here for VortiX as well. The main issue that VortiX has got right now is that he's sitting on 200 population, but he doesn't really have any way to actually kill Viper. He's got a lot of the population is taken up in the water. And now you can see Viper moving around towards this angle. He's trying to find a little bit of a position towards the north, and indeed he does. So coming around away from those Springles, and he's able to use the Springled outpost here, as well as the large fortress, to defend it. And look, he's actually going to be able to take out the Berkshire Palace. If he gets that down, he's going to be feeling very good about himself and about his position. All of the Springles just chilling out idly at the moment, and he's done a great job. Just a couple of seconds that he needed to unload on that Berkshire Palace, and he takes it down.
Exactly. VortiX wasn't really looking. Now, looking at the unit list on the top, you can see that there is 2 transport ships for VortiX, so I would think that he was focusing a lot on getting another landing in potentially, but as you pointed out, that Berkshire Palace is now gone, and indeed the next batch of Lancers is ready to land. Viper is still in a tough spot, but he definitely made his life a little easier by taking down that keep, and it was a great position to be in with those bombards, because let's not forget the Chinese keep he has, that has hand cannon emplacements. And the hand cannon emplacements do a lot more damage to those siege weapons, the Springles of VortiX, than standard arrows would do.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But we can see those pyrotechnics upgraders come through now for those Chinese bombards. You can see the range that they've got on them sitting far back. But now the next drop begins, and it's looking like D-Day all over again as those knights look to try and make their way up the beachfront. But the Bombard's going to continue pushing forward. Look at the damage coming out from Viper. He is looking to try and take control of this front, losing out one of his Bombards. He's got to be paying attention. Looks like he's going to be turning his attention. Villagers managing to heal up that Bombard, but don't move too far forward, Mr. Bombard. You've got to try and keep yourself alive there. And indeed they do. Now looking to turn their attention towards the buildings, and Viper, despite being down significantly on military, is able to push through on this position. Berkshire Palace still down. Viper losing villagers, though. Lidakor, this ain't pretty.
This ain't pretty. The trebuchets were up to try and take down that keep over there, but now the bombards are rolling up. And you see VortiX's population is no longer looking spectacular. I think he deleted some villagers out there. As you can see, he actually captured both sacred sites, including the one on the island. The raids are still intensifying though, and Viper needs to do something about that. Otherwise, he will just slowly be bled dry here. He's going to decap the sacred site on the right side. And now with VortiX having some population space, he's gonna have a little more room for Knights, and Viper just struggling to find an angle to really gather resources from now with all those Knights inside his eco.
Yeah, and this is the consequence of not walling. I mean, we've talked about it a couple of times throughout this game already. But if Viper just throws up just a small little wall, he's going to be A-okay. But unfortunately, he hasn't done that just yet, so he's going to continue losing villagers for the meantime. But now the Palace Guards are making their way towards the enemy base, and VortiX finds himself in a little bit of a difficult spot.
Yeah, it definitely isn't looking as good as it used to like 2 or 3 minutes ago, but obviously VortiX still has a sort of untouchable eco, but Viper definitely took some steps forward over here, and his situation is looking better and better. If he can get any kind of foothold on the water, then it suddenly becomes a way better scenario because he can start harassing that fishing eco out there. The thing is that right now VortiX is exclusively playing with Knights, and on the other side Viper is now heavily invested into Spearmen, so a direct battle is not something that VortiX can take right now.
Yeah, now we see Viper looking to do the classic Bombard raid. This is exactly what you'd expect out of this guy, raiding the gold mining villages over towards the east of the map with those Bombards. It's beautiful stuff coming out from him, but yeah, now forcing back his enemy from that gold mine. All of those villagers do walk away with their tails between their legs, and now Viper's really looked to try and take control of this eastern side of the map. He's taken the sacred site. You can see he's getting in reusable barrels now for the nest of bees, and he's slowly sieging down the Hulk on the shoreline. The Hulk trying its best to take out the units that are here, but I don't think VortiX is paying too much attention, nor does he really care too much about losing this front, because, I mean, he's done a lot of damage, and the question is whether Viper is going to be able to overcome this now.
Yeah, indeed, like VortiX definitely lost a lot of ground, and the concerning thing right now for him is that he's still stuck at 175 population, so he lost a lot of units, but you don't get the impression that he's replenishing them immediately, which is a concern, because now Viper's population is looking way better. The Spearmen should be sufficient over here to stop the Knights, but they're slightly mispositioned. The Knights do get an angle on those siege weapons, but they're fighting the Spearmen, not the Bombards, and the Spearmen now are in engagement.
Yeah, Bombards managing to make their way on the back line. You can see them firing off towards those Springles. Beautiful little choke point in here Viper's found, but at the same time, it looks like he might not have enough spears. The Knights, unfortunately, kind of bugging out a little bit as Viper continues to hold on. More Nest of Bees coming out with their reusable barrels. We see villagers being pulled out to heal up these Bombards, and Bombards just doing so much work here. Nest of Bees firing off from the back line. Bombard's going to have to make their way out. We see reinforcements coming through for Viper, but he's only got Veteran Spearman. Doesn't have the elite upgrade for them just yet. And he's trying his darnest to hold on into this position against the Elite Knights. Manages to stabilize. I think he lost about 2 Bombards throughout that fight, Lidakor.
Yeah, that was a terrible engagement for VortiX, and as you pointed out, Elite Spearman is not even there for Viper. If he had that, that would have been an absolute disaster here for VortiX. I'm not exactly sure why he took that engagement. Oh boy, that is looking weird from VortiX. He needs to make a tech switch of some sort, because he's still just spamming Knights into the Spearman, and he's giving a window for Viper. Really, Viper has cleaned up those hogs on the riverside, as we could see, so he could suddenly start contesting the water, and you get the feel that Viper is now entering that late game stage with the Chinese, where the unit composition on land is simply superior, and VortiX isn't able to finish the game as fast as he wants to.
Yeah. One of the things to keep in mind, though, is that VortiX, he will have a very strong economy in this late game. But unfortunately, I would almost say it's a little bit of a misplay in keeping his fishing boats. And this is the consequence of playing late game water with the English, is that all of your fishing boats are out on the ocean. You don't actually have the enclosures technology right now, VortiX. You're mining gold. You're gathering your gold. You're not actually getting the gold from your farms, which is where the majority of your late game strength comes from, because of how quickly that gold begins to build up. If you put 80 villagers on food, it works out to be like 1,000, 1,200 gold a minute that is coming in, and you can just spam men-at-arms non-stop. And that's what I'd love to see him do. You know, men-at-arms, elite men-at-arms with clad armor and +3 upgrades, you're talking about 10 armor on those bad boys, and they just overrun everything. I'd love to see that coming out from VortiX, but I don't know whether he's got the armor or the economy to support it.
Yeah, right now he doesn't have the economy, and as he's going deeper and deeper into that bay with the fishing ships, those also become way less effective. So you see, he's got like 1800 food income per minute. Viper actually has a more effective food economy than the English player, and that's not something that you would necessarily expect. Now, once again, those raids are coming in, and that's going to do quite a lot of damage to Viper, but Viper, in a straight-up battle, he can win right now. So if he can somehow address these raids and counterattacks, suddenly he's in a better position than VortiX is.
Yeah, you can see he's ringing the bell like crazy in there and just making sure all of those villagers are nice and safe, tucked away inside the villages, inside the town centers. But now Viper pushes forward with a huge mass of spears at the same time. Just his base having a bit of a struggle, it seems, and the consequence of still no walls. Viper really doing the no wall challenge here in a $125,000 tournament. So we'll have to ask him about that a little bit later if we do get the chance to speak to him, because it seems like a curious place to be doing it. But look at this push coming through from Viper. He is definitely looking incredibly strong. We're talking bombards. We're talking nest of bees. We're talking mass spears. And I'm pretty sure, have these spearmen got their upgrade just yet? I think they might be elite upgraded now. No, they're still veterans. I'm pretty sure they're still veteran. What is he doing? What is he doing? But Bombard's now continuing to push up at this point. Going to be able to take out all that infrastructure. You can see the Nest of Bees, how effective they are against that infantry mass back there, just firing off towards them. But Nest of Bees getting taken out by the Springalds. Look at the Springalds doing so much work with their roller shutter triggers. But now going to be taken out themselves. And now the mass begins to move forward for Viper. He's got villagers in the mix as well. He's bringing them forward, but now going to be turning his attention towards those Springalds. Look at them all go down, Lidakor. It's not looking pretty right now for VortiX.
Where is the army of VortiX? The answer is nowhere, because if you look at that unit composition that he has, most of his military population is in the form of transport ships, hawks, and whatnot, not on the battlefield. If you look at Viper's army, 50 spearmen, 13 palace guards, 3 bombards out there. He's got his entire army on this battlefield, and VortiX doesn't, and now it's just a flood of units over here. With the elite spearmen, this would be even more effective. And am I seeing villagers engaging over there?
You are seeing villagers engaging right now. This is the level that VortiX is currently at. Unfortunately for him, it's not looking pretty right now for him, because you know when it's villagers versus spearmen, and when it's in this number, it's not going to be pretty for him. At the same time, Viper appears to have cleaned up the raids that were in his base. He's rebuilding his economy. Everything is starting again, and now we can see VortiX really looking to put the foot down. He's dropping down a huge amount of archery ranges, but keep in mind, he doesn't have the elite upgrade, or rather, he doesn't have all the upgrades yet for his longbows. He does have that elite upgrade, but now going to be getting the incendiary arrows. It's going to take some time to get that, but Palace Guard's going to be able to clean up as well in this position. Bombard's behind it. You see the keep is coming down. It's not looking pretty right now for VortiX. He's continuing to lose villagers. He's at 101 villagers at the moment, going to be moving them forward, trying to take out the siege. If Viper's not careful, all those bombards are going to be going down. There's the first one as it goes down, but at the same time back towards the base. Actually, that bombard still survived. Look, that must be on a tickle of health.
Oh, it's surviving. It's surviving with the villagers coming in. Full disaster for VortiX. He's dropping in population, and he's going to tap out over here.
Wow.
Holy smokes.
I did not expect this. Viper with the 2-0 over VortiX. You gotta say, the kid's got some talent, doesn't he? He has got some absolute talent. Wow. What an absolute game. And I mean, Lidakor, this is it. This is Boulder Bay. I enjoyed this game, man. I don't know about you. It was a freaking good game.
It was a really good game. The wonders that you can have when you don't just have Rus smashing ships into each other. And really, was a great performance by both. You get the feel that VortiX didn't really have a late game plan here, though, because to me, it really felt like his game plan stopped when he started making hawks in Castle Age, and he was like, okay, I'm going to get to sort of this defensive play into a fast castle, and then just unleash hell with my hawks and pretty much win the game in like 20 minutes, because the last 15 minutes, you got the impression that VortiX was sort of stuck with his game plan, whereas Viper always adapted and always exploited every single mistake that VortiX made.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Viper did a great job. There were a couple of times where I was looking very worried for him. Like, as an example, you didn't see that second town center come down until it was quite late, the third town center especially. And there was a point where VortiX had like 60 military on land, and Viper had nothing. He was literally sitting there with 4 spearmen. Then the Berkshire happened, and that's when where it all started to go south for VortiX, because he wasn't able to get that Berkshire down where he wanted it, and as a result, it just meant his whole game plan went to complete shambles. So very well played there to Viper.